So we all know the cost of living has been increasing, but if you're like most people, your income probably hasn't. So today I wanted to share a practical approach to help me manage some of the rising costs that everyone's had to deal with, and really not to feel like you're on this constant treadmill that's going faster than you can run. Now today I'm going to tell you, instead of coming out with some big grand plan side hustle out of the gate, I always like to have a starting point. And my starting point is to find ways to keep money that you already have coming in, or having that starting point. Now think of it a little bit like losing weight. If you've ever been on a weight loss journey, you know if you burn more calories than you take in, then you're going to lose weight. Well, with money, it's not that dissimilar. You want to start by analyzing your current financial situation. You're going to want to look at your account over the last 90 days or 180 days. The bigger the time data set that you have, the more accurate that you can be. And I usually like to look at this in 3 columns: mandatory expenses, non-mandatory expenses, and one-time kind of one-off expenses. Now let's start with the mandatory expenses. The mandatory expenses are the ones you can't change. So rent, car payment if you have it, insurance, those things. The next one is the non-mandatory expenses. You probably guessed it by now, right? Eating out, getting coffee, going to the movies, things like that you don't have to spend money on every month in order to get by. And then the third, the one-time or extraordinary expenses that I was talking about. And what those would be is, a speeding ticket, your tire blows out and you have to buy a new tire. Basically anything that's like an out of the ordinary style cost that you can put in there. Now, once you do this, like a lot of people, things are going to start to jump out at you. So if you're doing, the 3 months or the 6 months, you're going to see, oh, wow, I spent $100 on coffee. I ate out, more this month than the next, but nonetheless, I've been eating out a lot and spending a lot of money on that, or, whatever the case may be. You're going to start to see these expenses. And instead of it feeling like $3-4, on a per occurrence basis, which doesn't feel like much and shouldn't have a real impact on your day, when you start to add it up over a week, 2 weeks, a month, you're going to see that it's a pretty profound impact on your income. And those are the things you're going to want to really hone in on and focus on, because that's going to be the easiest way to free up some additional capital by making better decisions. For example, if you find that you're spending $150 at Starbucks over the course of a month, maybe cut that down to a couple of days that you go to Starbucks, and the rest of the time, either make your coffee at home, or maybe you're going to a job where they have coffee there. But just try to find things. Now, I'm not saying it has to be, absolutist. You completely eliminate all those things that you look forward to. But what I am saying is, as you pare it down, it can have a big impact over a period of time, because a lot of small little micro decisions like that can have a pretty big impact, right? Because they compound. The ultimate takeaway here is, you're going to know best what you can and can't live without. But the knowledge of where the money is being spent is what you really want to focus on, because knowledge is key in this. And as you go and make those decisions, at least you understand what the implications are, and you're going to start making your own decisions on, is this necessary? I know some of these things are obvious, but a lot of people, you'd be surprised, don't actually look at their bank account, print it out, dissect where everything is going, and then add up those things that are non-mandatory. Once you do that, you immediately quell some anxiety, because you're starting to compartmentalize where things are going, and you understand, if you're still in a deficit, for example, how big that deficit is. It's just putting definition around what a lot of these are. And that's the first step to improving your situation. The next thing you want to do is really kind of evaluate your time. Not that dissimilar from the first exercise there with your bank account. Really think about, where do I spend my time? Like when you get home from your job, do you spend a couple hours in front of the TV? Do you maybe spend a couple hours on social media? What are you really doing? I mean, because look, everybody from a mental health perspective needs to unwind. And whatever that mechanism is for you to unwind is great, and continue to do that. You really want to take stock of exactly how much of that time you're using and you're deploying in, those particular categories. Figure out what is comfortable in terms of allocating time for a potential side hustle, for example. But side hustles are really 2 primary things. One is consistency, because no side hustle is going to work, and it's not going to get you ahead. It's actually going to get you more frustrated if you can't stay consistent with it. So it's about continuity and consistency, and being able to do it day in and day out to really give it time to have an impact and positively affect your financial situation. The other part is you can't have a side hustle that takes up so much of your time that you have no downtime for yourself. From a mental health perspective, that's not going to be good for you either. Essentially, you're going to just burn yourself out quicker, and then you don't have the sustainability and you can't be consistent with it. And so it's all just a vicious kind of cycle you don't want to get into. But if you determine that you have an hour, for example, when you're evaluating your time, you can have a pretty big impact. If you take that hour and you make that hour from, it just being sitting around doing something, non-revenue generating activity, and you convert that to a revenue generating activity, even though it takes time to get some of these things ramped up, 1 hour a day, if you're doing it, just on the weekdays, it's 5 hours a week. That's 20 hours a month. You can have a pretty big impact. You can do a lot in 20 hours a month. And what really helps you stay consistent with the side hustle, finding one that is an extension of things you already like to do. If you're into photography, building that business so you can start to do things that you love within the photography space is going to be the easiest thing for you, because it doesn't feel like you're spending that hour on something that you're just doing it to make money. When looking and analyzing, once you know your time, what your side hustle is going to be, start with your passions first, right? Do any of your passions have the ability for you to make money with, as little startup costs as possible? Because if you can find that out, then you're really getting closer to that side hustle being a huge financial impact on you, because now you have time to do it and you're not going to get burnt out because you enjoy doing it. And when it's already extension of what you would have already liked to have been doing anyway, those are things that are going to help you be consistent and allow that side hustle to come to fruition. Now, the third thing I'll bring up is how to keep more of your money other than identifying ways to cut back. Say you get home, you play with your kids, right? Say you're not on the TV, but you're doing things that you need to do for your mental health or for your family or whatever the case, and you want to play with your kids and you don't want to take away any of that time. Totally understand. But what I would do in that case, you've already identified where you may be spending some money, but then you look at other ways to try to optimize your existing situation. So what you want to do is look at your job. Now, the increased costs are across the board. I mean, this is everything. This is from goods, materials, food, gas, all of it has been going up. So it's likely your employer is feeling it as well. Or maybe look at some areas where the company has had to let people go and there are some job duties that are currently not being done. Something you can do at your work where you can go and say, hey, listen, I'll take on this additional role, or I'll do a few additional tasks or duties in exchange for a small pay increase. Really open your mind with your existing job as well to see, is there opportunities for you to make more money within your existing job? Because that is going to be a path that is potentially pretty viable for you. I mean, for example, if you're a brand, the easiest way to double your sales if you sell a good in a store is to get 2 SKUs instead of 1. So you go in, you talk to the same client that already likes your product and say, hey, I would like to have this additional item for sale in your store. It's much easier for them to say yes to that than it would be to go get somebody they don't know and they've had no experience with, to bring them in and put that product in. And you're the same way. You already have a relationship with your employer. You can go to them and say, hey, look, I'm not coming and arbitrarily asking for a raise. Maybe you are, but it's always nice to go and to offer something with that to give a higher certainty of outcome as to what that may be. So if you go to them and say, hey, look, I noticed X, Y, and Z isn't getting done. I'm happy to put that into my workload. Take that on. Maybe I can find a way to 12% or 15% more in terms of a pay bump. That saves them from time of having to recruit somebody. That saves them from time of having to train. It does a lot for the business as well. So it can be a very mutually beneficial opportunity for both. So really, at the end of the day, if you want to stop feeling broke, knowledge is going to be key. And the knowledge is, where are you spending money that are things you can cut out and or cost save in some way, shape, or form. Then the second is, if a side hustle or additional income on top of what you already have is for you and you want to do that, first figure out how much time you have and then try to figure out what you can do consistently. And then third, if you don't have time for that side hustle, the other way that you can try to improve your financial situation is to look for opportunities within your existing work environment. And those would be your best ways in order to improve your financial situation. So hope it works out for you. I'm rooting for you.